Hey friendos, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Matt. We're back with some more Marvel Future Fight, and as you can see, unfortunately, there are a few bugs at the moment in the game, which has been making content a little more difficult than usual. You can see here that the damage output has been massively reduced with certain characters. It doesn't work in World Boss Practice mode. Some people are moaning that Hulk's tier 4 skill is still not working, but we'll ignore those people. Yeah, so it has been a rough couple of days, sadly, especially when you're trying to do world boss content to show off the new Jean Grey. Which, to be honest, so far, the new Jean Grey World Boss Legend has been the only bright shining spark in this update. What I wanted to do was kind of show off if Jean herself had any PVE value. You can see here we've got through the first 5 stages, and it turns out that there is no big elemental debuff on Thor. It was just because I was doing it in practice and the damage wasn't applying properly. So here are the teams that I've used to get through the first 5 stages. I must admit, as awesome as it is also the hardest content, certainly in terms of world bosses. Those second and third phases where she really does ensnare you and then does a lot of damage. So you can see we have Iron Man, we have Black Bolt with supports, we have Moon Knight, who still manages to do great damage even though he's only level 80, not tier 4, with an energy. We have Thor, and then we have Hulk, who managed to do. So both physical and energy attacks both work well against her. It's just, like I say, we were having problems in practice mode, which meant that we couldn't really show off characters to their full potential. Now, as you can see here, the CTP of Greed does have Guard Break, Ignore Dodge, and increases damage, and you can roll it so that it's increased damage against all 4 types. So you would think that there would be some utility there for Jean Grey. After all, previously she worked really well as a hybrid build with Greed. She was always more PvP focused, but the Greed worked well for her in PvP. Sadly, nowadays that is not the case, so I thought I'm going to give her one last chance today with Greed against a couple of the bosses to see if she can do anything. For example, Spider-Man, he rocks a Greed. You can use him in high level PvE, he does really well. You can use him in PvP with the Greed, he does really well. So you would think that, you know, hopefully Jean, with the even newer uniform and the amount of damage that she outputs, she could also rock it. Unfortunately, as we're going to see, that may not necessarily be the case. So let's switch over to her, and admittedly this is stage 29. We've only got the 2 teams that can actually do this at the moment. As I was showing you, I have Black Widow at level 80, not at tier 4, and she can't really do this stage in great time, not in the 100 seconds, so I might have to tier 4 her in order to get this done. But I don't know if it's just me. I don't feel like the female characters that we do have at tier 4, I know obviously Storm, you need to have her paywall uni, but they don't feel half as strong as they should do in comparison to their male counterparts. I don't know if that's just me, or it's because of typing, because obviously a lot of the males have been combat, but it does feel like, I mean, even Moon Knight, who was one of the first after Iron Man, still feels a lot stronger than a lot of the female characters who've received their tier 4 since then. But there, you can see, it took a whole minute. She was still getting stunned, she was still getting stopped and snared, and she only managed to get 10 bars down. So, we'll go to Mephisto. She can't do Blast. Supervillain. Yes, we can do Supervillain with her. So, let's see how she does against a fellow fire damage type. Fight fire with fire, as they say. So we'll take out Hulk. Hulk is able to do level 44. I know a lot of people say that Hulk has been nerfed and he's not as good, blah 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 blah, because they can't run through GBR in 2 minutes flat. But he can still absolutely destroy high-end PvE and PvP. as demonstrated by the fact that he was the fastest clear on level 5 of Jean Grey. So I don't know why people are complaining, because he's still meta, completely meta for both PvE and PvP. I certainly think that a lot of people undervalue him. But as you can see here, despite going through a rotation, despite going through a tier 3, 30 seconds in, we still have to do another rotation, and it's only now that we get Doctor Strange showing up with his spells to cast to stop the rage outburst. Normally you'd hope to be through this in about 15-20 seconds. And certainly after this first ensnaring by Doctor Strange, you would hope that he would be out of this phase and we'd be through to the next stage. But as you can see, it doesn't happen. So she fails the minute test on Mephisto 2. Which kind of sucks really, because I was kind of hoping that she, you know, Mephisto is the easiest of all the World Boss Legends. So you would hope that she would have managed to do that. But sadly no. Ultron and Gore, both even harder still, so there's no point showing those. Especially if we're going to go to the hardest one, and that's Jean herself. So we'll go down to stage 1. And like I say, even stage 1 for Jean is harder than say stage 5 or 10 for Gore or Ultron. And it takes longer. So if we go into this and we have a look and see, oh, I don't know what that was, a little stutter there. Hopefully stutters and things like that, capturing game footage should be easier from now on. Just as a little side note, as we go through and see Jean getting stunned and snared to hell. I don't know if any of you guys watch the Game Awards, but in between all the madness and the crazy long speeches and the trolling interruptions, there was actually an advert for Google Play Games, which is in beta, which means that you can actually link your mobile to your computer and play games on your PC. So hopefully that should mean a lot smoother content coming up in the future. Touch wood. So yeah, as you can see, our counterpart here, who has a lot cooler looking skills and can do a lot more damage output in PvE, is absolutely destroying us. And whilst stage 1 is no easy task against Jean, normally most characters can at least get her down to 30 bars by the end of the first minute. So PvE wise, she might have some utility, but unfortunately Greed is just no good. She cannot do a hybrid build. So I could put a judgment on her. You can see I've got a mighty judgment, but we all know that her utility isn't going to be in PvE, so it'd be a waste of 600 crystals to chuck that on her. I think what we're clearly going to do is just put a regen on her. We will reforge that at some point, and we will just have her in PvP. And the reason why is fairly obvious, because if you go and have a look in PvP, if you look at timeline, I'm sure we shall see all the characters in there in the top 10 are pretty much going to be rocking Jean Grey, because she is just dominating already. I know when we did our first impressions test, I was using her on auto, and with the Greed it wasn't really working, but having seen it since the weekly reset, she is absolutely destroying. You can see here 1 team, 2 team, 3 team. Oh no, there's 1 team without it. But again, Jean everywhere, just like the old days, just like 2019. Jean, oh no, 2 teams. Hey, good for you, AP Toms, still rocking. But AP Toms has a ridiculously good Thanos, so I can't say I blame him for going with him still. So yeah, Jean, PvP only, no Greed. I was going to do a video on Cyclops, but to be honest, it's just not worth it. It's really sad. It's really sad, because I was hoping that he would have some PvE utility, and he really doesn't. We're going to go all the way down to stage 1 null, and normally most characters will absolutely rinse stage 1 null. They'll have him down in like 10 seconds to his phase change, if that, and normally finish it within 20 seconds. But as we were going to see here now, he just doesn't have the damage even with his new kit, which means he's just a leadership only. And with Beast being just a leadership only and support, and Angel being far, far more disappointing than anyone was expecting, this has kind of been a very underwhelming end to 2022. We were hoping it was going to be the year of the mutants. We were surprised when we got to the end of the year and we got a mutant update, but yeah, as you can see, 30 seconds and struggling. I was hoping that there might be some use for him in ABL. Unfortunately, the footage I got when I was testing with him got corrupted, so I couldn't use it. But you know how the little thumbs up you can see there on Iron Hammer means that he has the fracture skill. So when Surtur goes into his destroying the environment phase and you have to use that skill, you will see here we're just going to use Thor just to do the damage, whatever, it doesn't really matter. We've already done our run for today, so we're not looking for a massive score here or anything. So we're just going to run this through, get to the second orb that drops down, and then Surtur will go into his destruction. There we go, so the second node in Might, we collect that, and we swap over to Iron Hammer. So it says here, Surtur is trying to destroy the zone. That's where you use the thumbs up skill. See, we use it here. Surtur's energy bar flashes and he's down. Unfortunately, with Cyclops, who does have the fracture skill on his first, it doesn't work. It doesn't last long enough for it to actually affect Surtur and damage him. So you can hit the one skill and the fracture, you can see there, 2-second fracture, but it doesn't, I don't know if it's not long enough or it doesn't proc correctly, but it doesn't do enough damage to stop Surtur. And even when I hit it twice, still couldn't get it to stop Surtur from destroying the zone. So unfortunately, he doesn't have anything worthwhile on any of his other skills. So I gotta say, unless you're purely using him as a hero leadership / support for energy types, yeah, Cyclops is a skip. It's really disappointing because it is a cool looking uniform. It really does look cool, and you know, I think poor Scott does get such a hard time in the X-Men community, but yeah, this is doing nothing for him either, sadly. So as you can see, we got to the future past level of Polaris, and she really is the last hope for this update. I'm hoping that she's good, because otherwise so far it's Jean World Boss and that's it. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know what you guys think, if you're also thinking that this update has been meh. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but until then, yeah, World Boss Jean, amazing. The rest, no, not so much. Anyway, take care for now. See you next time. Bye.